Great. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. My name is Kimberly Tai. I work with County Health, Housing, and Homeless Services, aka H3. Let's move on with introductions. And just really quickly, for those that just entered the room, this meeting is being recorded. There's a few more, actually. Let me just admit.
I got them.
You got them? Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tammy Stosich. I am with Health, Housing, and Homeless Services, and I am the HMIS Quality Assurance and Training Coordinator.
Let's actually go ahead and introduce our COH members. I think a few more are entering the room. So COH members, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, your pronouns, your affiliation, seat, that would be great.
I jump in. Hi, Tony Youthsferry, the Deputy Executive Director with the Housing Authority of Contra Costa County. My pronouns are he, him, and I hold a PHA seat on the council.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jay Delato, pronouns he, him. I am the Coordinated Entry Specialist for the Department of Veterans Affairs Homeless Program, and I hold the veteran seat.
Good morning. This is Joe Bruno, Peer Support Specialist with Delta Peers and Lived Experience Advisor on the Council for Homelessness.
Thanks, Joe. I believe Juno is in the room.
Yes, I am. Hello. We're doing introductions.
Yes.
Hi. My connection is okay. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Juno Hedrick here, pronouns they, them. I'm lived experience advisor on the council and co-chair, and also a student inspired program. Nice to see everybody. Oh, and a YAC member, and a YAP member. Here we go. That's all the hats.
Thanks, Juno. Is Alejandro or Nicole with us today?
Alejandra said she'd be about 30 minutes late.
Okay, That's okay. All right, so moving on. I will proceed now with the other members of the red team. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves.
Hi, my name is Tori Carlson with H3 Red Team. I'm a data analyst type.
Hello, my name is Carlos Silva. I am data analyst for the H3.
And I'm Tammy Stosich with Health, Housing, Homeless Services. I'm the HMIS Quality Assurance and Training Coordinator. Sorry for stepping out of turn earlier.
Okay. And we have a new member on the red team, Karina. Karina, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karina Rodriguez Pena. I'm a new member, as Kim mentioned, for the H3 Red Team as planner and evaluator.
Thanks, Karina. Okay, COC team, please go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, everyone. Jamie Schechter. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a homeless services chief here with H3. I'll pass it to Mary. Oh, Mary, your audio might not be working.
Now you can hear me, right? All right. Hi, everyone. Mary Juarez Fitzgerald, Coordinated Entry System Manager with H3. And I think is that all of us from H3? Yeah, right? All righty. I will toss it back to you, Kim. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Let's introduce our agency partners. So I will drop the agency list in the chat. And then if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourselves in the chat, that would be great. Okay, well, thank you everybody for being here. Let's move on to the review of previous minutes. The minutes should have been included in the packet that we distributed last Friday. We want to see if anyone had any questions or comments about the minutes distributed last Friday. And this is for the meeting that occurred in March. Okay, great. If no comments or questions, COH members will need your vote to formally approve the minutes. When I call your name, let me know your vote. Jay? Sorry, Jay, I don't know if
Sorry, I was on mute.
yeah, I think you're on mute.
It's gonna be like 10 years later and I'm still gonna be okay. Aye.
Great. Tony?
Aye.
Juno?
Aye.
Great. Joe? Oh, actually, are you still a voting member of this
I
committee?
don't know if I'm a
Probably
voting
not.
member
Yeah,
or not.
you're right. Okay,
I
sorry about
may
that.
not be. Yep, no, we're good. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So I think we've got quorum, so I think we can go ahead and formally approve the minutes. Is that right, Jamie? Yeah. We have
It's a
3
work
members.
group, so we don't really need to.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
A work group. Okay, thank you. Good to know.
Yep.
All right, next up we have agency updates. So this is an opportunity for anyone to share announcements about your agency's upcoming events, new programs that are closing, staffing changes, etc. I will leave the floor open for a couple of minutes.
I'll jump in. Just give everybody a heads up that we have 11 project-based voucher waitlists currently open. So if anybody is interacting with anyone that needs to apply for rental assistance anywhere, direct them to our website.
Great, thank you, Tony. Any other agency updates, staffing changes, programs closing or opening? All right, well, next up on the agenda, we have sysadmin updates. So just a couple updates from our team. We have updated a few forms. On the client ROI, we have added a new agency, Fresh Lifelines for Youth, or FLY. On the standard intakes, we have added a line for if other non-cash benefit, please specify. So we wanted to make sure to capture those new non-cash, or not new non-cash benefits, but non-cash benefits that have existed that we may not have been entering in HMIS in the past. On the standard exit, we have added a new reason for leaving. So one that is specific to prevention. The new option is called completed prevention program and retained housing. And the reason is because the last list didn't have an applicable option for that. So we went ahead and added that option. And then lastly, we do have a new resource available. It's called the Data Quality Dashboard Manual. This will provide instructions on how to run and correct your agency's data quality dashboard. So it's on our training platform and should be on our CC Health webpage soon. So hope you all find that helpful. A few other updates. We have developed several assessments and tools in HMIS to track CalAIM. So all the required information for the state. And because of this, I think we're also seeing an increased interest in HMIS and access. So just a heads up, we may be growing our system in the near future. HMIS license invoicing. I think most license invoices have been sent out. If your agency hasn't received an invoice or has any questions, please let the red team know. And then lastly, our team will be operating at limited capacity next week. So if you have an urgent request, please send it over before Friday or plan accordingly. Any questions before we move on to the next slide? Perfect. Okay, last update is around the training portal. So our training portal has been open and active since May 1st. I know some of you have been using it already. Hope it's been helpful. You can access the training portal through our webpage, cchealth.org/HMIS. Staff who utilize HMIS may start taking trainings. So you would just have to register for an account and you can start poking around, looking at the forms and resources we have available there. And also just, maybe watch some of those videos as refreshers. There are also some things that you may have not received training on originally, so it might be helpful to review some of those new videos. Agency admins will still be required to request licenses. So taking the training does not automatically give someone a license. The agency admin would still have to email the red team, not email the red team, request a license through the website, and only after the staff has completed training will we issue the license. So just a quick update on that. Any questions on the training portal? All right, I will then turn it over to Jamie for COC updates.
Hi, everyone. Okay, next slide. Great. So we're going to touch briefly on each of these three topics: PIT, annual report, and kind of end of the fiscal year reminders for everybody. In case you missed it or want to revisit it, I presented on the point in time count, the PIT, at last week's Council on Homelessness meeting. So I'm going to post the link in the chat for folks to go over those documents. But I thought today we might be able to spend a little bit of time just looking over the infographic we've developed. So we can go through that a little bit because we didn't do too much of that at the council meeting. So I'm going to try and share screen and see if that's allowed. Nope. Kim, will you make me a co-host so I can share screen? Thank you.
There you go.
Okay. Give me 1 sec to get myself organized. And can folks see the infographic screen? Okay. So this is on our website, and I'll share the link to that as well, so everybody can follow along if you want. It's also linked in the council presentations, like giving you 10 different ways to access this. But I figure I'll zoom in and we can kind of go graphic by graphic just to really dig into it. So the 2024 point in time count identified 471 more people experiencing homelessness compared to our 2023 point in time count. You see here in this first chart that our proportion of folks experiencing sheltered, which is the light yellow, versus, which is the dark blue, versus unsheltered, which is the light yellow, is relatively similar. Last year we were at 70% were unsheltered. This year we're at 69%. So not a huge shift, but the overall numbers did increase. What that totals out to is about 2,800, 2,850 people experiencing homelessness on January 25th in 2024, both sheltered and unsheltered. When we get down to some demographics, compared to last year, same number of youth under the age of 18, or same proportion of youth under the age of 18, 7% of people. And large majority of those young people are in households headed by adults. We had, I believe, 3 unaccompanied minors that we found the night of, all experiencing sheltered homelessness. We saw a little bit of an increase in transition age youth. We went from 5% to 7%. And so that's a pretty big jump because they make up a pretty small number of people that we're seeing during the PIT. We saw a little bit of a decrease in that kind of middle age group, We went from 59% to 56%. And the senior age, 55 and older, stayed the same. I want to remind folks that PIT is a one-day activity. It's about 2-3 hours in the morning in January, and it was rainy that day. And you know, when weather is bad, folks tend to find other opportunities, or they can be more challenging to hide. So while we're going through this, I want to make sure that kind of context is there. It is not the end-all be-all of the data in Contra Costa, but it is one piece of the puzzle. So if you're like, wait a minute, why would we not see any change in senior homelessness? We might be, and it's just probably not reflected well in PIT. With gender, we had a pretty similar split to last year, 61% male, last year 63%, 38% female, last year 36%. Both years, trans and non-binary folks made up less than 1%. Race is an interesting category this year because HUD changed data standards back in October. And so prior to this year, we had asked separately, are you Hispanic, Latino, and what other race do you identify with? This year, that was all collapsed into one category. So a lot of people are now identified as multiracial. We've tried to really parse out kind of where that Hispanic Latino proportion is, because that's generally the biggest chunk of multiracial information, but it makes it really hard to compare to last year. Any questions on kind of the demographics or the overall numbers before I get into our geographic sort of section? And if there's anything in the chat, let me know, because I'm not keeping an eyeball on it. So geography. We had some interesting shifts happening. West County decreased 24% from 2023. And this is where percents get hard, because that's an overall number to number, 24%. Last year, they made up about 40% of the entire county's proportion. And this year, they're only making up 31%. So they had a decrease, a significant decrease. And again, we know that this is just the one day who we're counting number, but we also know that there were significant investments in things like encampment resolution funding happening in West County. And so we can see that there's probably been a decrease in number of folks experiencing homelessness there. Central County stayed pretty similar from last year, 2% overall decrease. It made up 30% of the county's proportion. Last year, it made up 30% of the county's proportion. So it's been pretty stable there. And then East County, we saw an increase. Last year, it made up 30% of the proportional amount. This year's 39%, and it saw a 31% increase. We saw a large number of RVs and cars and things like that, where it's more likely that more than one person is staying in that location, that sleep setting. And so that might be part of the explanation for East County increase. I want to note this is not a comprehensive list of every single town or city in Contra Costa. If they had less than 5 observed unsheltered individuals either last year or this year, we didn't put them on here. So this number may not equal up to the total number that we saw during PIT. And then sleep settings, you can see here, about 1/3 of people were experiencing sheltered homelessness in either emergency shelter or transitional housing. Other than that, the largest category that is present is around outdoors or tents. So the observed kind of unsheltered settings. Then cars, RVs, and vans make up the rest of the settings that we observed on the night of. Any questions about geography? Okay, I'll move us along. Then we get into some population characteristics. Adult-only households, 95%, and that's exactly the same as last year. 5% were families with children. And then, of course, those 3 unaccompanied minors make up less than 1%. About 57% of folks were chronically homeless. That's about a 10% drop from what we saw last year. And that could mean, you know, that we're seeing a lot more people experiencing first-time homelessness. But I wouldn't take any definitive conclusions from PIT. So it's just one more piece of the puzzle. 5% veterans, which is a little bit of a decrease from last an increase from last year where we saw 4%. So small variation happening in our veteran population there. 15% of adults had responded that they've had experience with the foster care system, and that is an increase a little bit from last year where there was 13%. Where we had the largest increase and where we are definitely going to be digging in and understanding the data on an annual level is 45% of adults said that they had spent 1 or more nights in jail or prison in the past year. And that's a very large increase from last year where we had 12% reporting the same. So this is a number we're going to want to dive into and see if that is a result of surveying and sampling, or if it's a trend we're seeing in our annual data as well. For the most part, the age that people experience homelessness stayed really consistent from last year. The under 18 age was exactly the same at 13. 13% of people said that they'd first experiencing homelessness and as a minor child. Similarly, the folks who said they first experienced at 50 or older stayed the same as last year at 12%. The in-between saw some variation. So folks who experienced homelessness for the first time as a transition-aged youth decreased a little bit from 27% to 24%. And folks who had experienced homelessness kind of in that middle age range, 25 to 49, increased a little bit to 52% from 47%. So there's been a little bit of change, but not a huge difference. In terms of self-reported health conditions, this is another chart where things aren't going to equal up to 100% because a lot of people report 1 or more options here. You can check all that apply. But at least when we kind of deduplicate it, at least 83% of people said that they had one household member that had one of those conditions. And that is exactly the same as last year. We did see some change, some fluctuations in the conditions that were reported though. Mental health conditions increased from 49% to 61%. Substance use increased from 51% to 59%. Chronic health conditions decreased a little bit from 51% to 49%. Physical disabilities increased from 42% to 49%. Fleeing domestic violence decreased a little bit from 19 to 17%. And HIV and AIDS-related illnesses decreased from 2% to 1%. So again, one piece of the data puzzle. We use this to complement the annual data that we'll be sharing out later this summer. But there's a lot of reasons that these things could be increasing. People might be more comfortable disclosing. There might be, more responsiveness in whatever sites we were surveying, et cetera. So there might be a lot of different reasons for why these numbers are different from last year. Then this last chart about the PIT is the length of residency from folks who are unsheltered. This is not how long people have been unsheltered. This is how long they have been residents of Contra Costa County. So that wording can be a little bit confusing, and I'm trying to work with our graphics folks to update that. But 75% of people who are unsheltered have been living in Contra Costa County for more than 10 years. The next biggest category, or the next two categories from 1 year to 9 years, that's basically almost the rest of them. Only 3% of people have been in the county for less than a year. So I really want to emphasize this chart. These are our neighbors. These are folks who have been Contra Costa County residents for a very long time. And there's a lot of mythology out there, people coming to our county for services. I think these responses and what we know from our HMIS data shows that's really not true. And then this year we did something new compared to last year. We provided a little bit of information on the housing inventory count. This is a report that HUD requires to be submitted to complement the PIT. And every year we have to tell them how many units or how many beds do we have of each type of housing. And across the board from last year, we have increased beds in every component. So we increased our emergency shelter beds, transitional housing, rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing, and other permanent housing by 26%. So that's really the driving mechanism of why the proportion of people who are unsheltered versus sheltered has remained similar despite our larger number of people experiencing homelessness. We've been keeping pace with the growth in population. And while we will want to see that number downswing, at the very least, we're able to keep that pace. And that's the infographic. That's kind of the deep dive into the data here. Are there any questions from the group or anything you want to explore further?
This is Joe. I do want to point something out. I had commented about the number in the city of Antioch.
Mhm.
And there is a strip down Wilbur that goes into Antioch, into Oakley.
Mhm.
And just from what I've heard from people in the area, people who have experienced homelessness, and just the just rumors, conversations that I've been a part of.
Mhm.
And it turned out that all of those trailers that were sitting alongside that vineyard
Mhm.
was a business that had gone out of business, and they had like transferred all of their mechanics business to that side of the street, which is what caused a lot of the RVs getting burned down. There was a lot of tires and car parts, and the vineyard has now completely flipped that entire, there's a bunch of cement blocks there now. So there is absolutely no access to that side of the street. So I just wanted to point that out, that I think that number, that massive number in Antioch, had a lot to do with those businesses that just started to get set up on the side of the road. That's just the rumor mill, I guess, but it is part of the process, because there was a bunch of trailers down there for a long time.
Yeah, that's helpful. And we do provide training, of course, to count volunteers and staff on kind of what would how would you determine whether something is a sleep setting versus maybe just, offloaded material somewhere. But of course, that's not a perfect science by any stretch. So it could be that number fluctuates next year, the next time we do the pick count, based on cleanups that happened or other types of resolutions. Yeah. Jay.
So I have a question. I'm sorry if it's an ignorant question, but the 26% increase in the beds, and you were able to keep up with the pace. How did you predict that? Or I was just curious of how did you foresee that?
I wouldn't say that we predicted it, I wouldn't say that that was the goal in expanding capacity to keep pace. Our overall goal is to decrease the proportion of people experiencing unsheltered homelessness. And so our outcome was to keep pace, but we would have probably wanted to do even more.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'll remind folks, the county has a goal of reducing unsheltered homelessness by 75% in 2024 from 2020, I believe, or 2022, one of those numbers. And we didn't meet that, but that is one of the main goals we keep driving towards, is how are we reducing unsheltered homelessness.
Which is also why we've seen an increase in prevention programs over the last 6 months.
Yep. Okay. And seeing no other hands, I will stop sharing, and I'll let you go back to sharing, Kim.
Yep.
The other two kind of updates, we have annual report. That's just another reminder that H3 publishes an annual report around the entire system of care every year. So wanted to flag that as it'll be coming out. We're aiming to present to the Council on Homelessness on August 1st during an August council meeting. So we're fast at work at that. And that's really another great balance to pit data to see what is the full picture of homelessness in Contra Costa. Last year, we served over 10,000 people in all of the programs, from prevention to street outreach to permanent housing. And so we were able to get a much better data set, much more complete data set than just the pit on its own. And finally, end of year fiscal reminders. I know a lot of you probably don't deal with anything with invoicing and billing and all of that fun stuff, but I do want to flag that for programs that include things like direct financial assistance or are tied to any funding streams in HMIS, please, please, please make sure your data up until June 30th is complete and very high quality, because we have a lot of closeouts and a lot of reimbursements based on those numbers of direct financial assistance that are tracked in HMIS. And it's really, really helpful to our finance and our operations folks to get those really clean. And I think that's everything from my end.
I think that's it. Thank you so much, Jamie. All right, moving on to CE updates. Passing it on to you, Mary.
Thanks, Kim. Hi, everyone. So I have a few quick updates. If you're in other meetings with me, this might be repetitive, but here we are. Hopefully it's new for some of you. So jumping right in. Next slide, please, Kim. Alrighty, so first update I have is regarding the coordinated entry team expansion. So we have additional staff that we have hired, which is really great. So most of you know myself or Natalie. We have added 2 new CE specialists as of April and May. So since we were in this group together last, so it might be new update for some of you, but we have Brittany Ferguson and Kate Horsting, 2 new CE specialists on our team. A reminder what our CE program specialists do. We provide system level support and coordination. So a lot of direct support, almost in like daily TA to our network of providers for rapid housing prevention, many of your teams, etc. Hosting case conference meetings, just really a lot of system infrastructure type support directly to program staff. So also liaison between service providers or access points, referral partners, and myself. And then they just support our overall team implementation, administration, and development of the Contra Costa Coordinated Entry System. So it's just great news because we have so much going on and we just, continue to, take on different projects, different things. So it's really great to have actually a full team right now. If you see them or see their name on your email, that's where they're from, Coordinated Entry. So give them a warm welcome. Next slide, please. Also want to give this group an update on some new programs and resources that we have coming online that we are currently in process referring for folks to, or will begin referring folks to in the next quarter or so, or towards the end of the year, specifically for supportive housing or different housing opportunities. So the first that I'm sure many of you are aware of is El Portal Place. So that is 54 micro units, PSH and project-based units out in San Pablo. We hope to this project gets pushed back. So we hope to start moving people in soon, but maybe, I think it says July, August, maybe it'll be fingers crossed for August. But we're really excited to finally get that site ready to go and connect folks to that housing opportunity. Next thing we have coming up is the access expansion. This is permanent supportive housing with Hope Solutions. It'll serve 16 total households. 10 of those will be either scattered site or possibly at a site in Central County to be determined. However, beginning in fall of 2024. And then 6 of those will be at cottages for seniors in Central County. So it is a PSH and partnership with Hope Solutions. So that is coming up. Then we also have a new project, the Rick Judd Commons Apartments, which is a No Place Like Home project, a partnership between RCD, Contra Costa Behavioral Health, our team, and Hope Solutions as the service provider. This will be for 13 one-bedroom units that will go through coordinated entry for placement and anticipate a late 2024 opening. So maybe in the fall sometime or later in the year. And we'll begin identifying referrals sometime around August. Then we also have Valor Village, which is a VIP funded project, veteran supportive housing, in partnership with SAHA. And I believe Shelter Inc. is going to be doing services out at the site. And this project will be 15 of the units will go through coordinated entry for placement, be 15 one-bedroom units, and these will be for veterans. So our team will also get to work with Jay and the veterans group to identify referrals for this project in the early fall. And then finally, we also have coming up soon a new countywide rapid housing program with Hope Solutions. Anticipate to launch sometime in July, maybe August. And this program, again, countywide rapid housing, it will serve adult-only households, estimated to serve 80 between 2024 and 2026. So a little bit longer program, I think about 2 years. So these are some of the new programs or resources that we have that we will be connecting folks to throughout the rest of the summer, fall, remainder of the year through coordinated entry. So we're super excited to have these opportunities to connect folks to and keep us busy. Next slide, please. Also wanted to give this group a little update on the Coordinated Entry Housing Needs Assessment Replacement Project, which is basically the project to replace the VI SPDAT, which it's been a long time coming. And this is just a little overview thus far of the timeline for that project. So if some of you recall, back in fall of 2022, there was a coordinated entry evaluation released that Focus Strategies helped our community with. And it had a few different recommendations in terms of improving our coordinated entry system. One of those was the recommendation to replace the VI SPDAT. So since then, we've kind of been taking the steps to get in the place to be able to go ahead and launch a project for that. So in spring and summer of 2023, our team and the oversight committee convened a work group to create a project plan and an RFQ. And the oversight and council approved that plan. We released that RFQ back in the winter, December, January. And that was to get some support for the project. To help us kind of, oversee the project. And February, March, we reconvened that work group and selected of the applicants, the team that will help us oversee this project. Next slide, please. And so that's where we are now. We did have a few applicants for to provide project management for the Housing Needs Assessment Replacement Project. And we selected Focus Strategies. Right now, we are in process of contracting, getting everything signed, sealed, so that we can launch that project in July and start really getting the wheels running to replace the VI. So keep an eye out for more news about that. And also, many of you on this group who represent different kind of stakeholders and entities in the process anticipate participating, giving us feedback and whatnot in some way when it comes time for that. And did I have anything else? One more. Next slide, please. Alrighty. So another quick little update about some different system improvement and coordination efforts our team has been working on and supporting lately. We have monthly program-specific meetings that we're hosting now. So we have prevention and rapid rehousing meeting that we're hosting. They are required for prevention and rapid rehousing program managers that are connected to the coordinated entry system. It's been really great to have a place for those teams to get together and talk about their program implementation and work through troubleshooting challenges, but also implementing best practices, being housing first, and just really kind of supporting each other in the work and improving coordination for providing services in our community. We also have some upcoming trainings to keep an eye out for specifically for some of our access point teams or for programs that are implementing either prevention or rapid exit. So we have a CEOC or CE 101 coming up. We're going to be doing a rapid exit refresher soon and a housing placement meeting training. So some of your teams may receive invites for that. And then finally, just some quick updates around data and reporting improvements in coordinated entry. So we have had so much help from the red team lately, as we always do. But one of the things they created recently that's been really great is the creation of a prevention referral dashboard for 211 to utilize. So as many of you may know, most of our prevention referrals flow through 211, and they send those referrals directly in HMIS. With the addition of new providers last year, it just, they needed a more efficient way to oversee sending referrals. So the red team, I think specifically Carlos, hey Carlos, thank you so much, created this awesome dashboard, and it's been really great to just have a really broad overview and easy to look at, accessible dashboard when it comes to the prevention referrals. And then also another thing, Kim and Carlos, hey Carlos, so amazing, the support you guys provide, but created a prevention enrollment and information report or dashboard, basically a place where our team can easily see in one spot a lot of overview and demographic information about folks being served in our prevention programs. So like household composition, household type, how many folks served across all the different programs, specifically for prevention. So it's been just really great to have those tools and be able to connect with our red team to just kind of improve our efficiency in getting a big picture look at some of the programs and work that we're doing. So thank you again to red team. Those are the updates that I have. Before I turn it back to Kim, any questions from the group about anything you heard? All righty. Well, thank you so much. Back to
Thank you,
you, Kim.
Mary. Okay, next up, we have data quality updates, and I'll pass it on to Tori and Tammy.
Hi, everyone. So first, I want to thank everyone. We've come up with a lot of new errors from HUD that we hadn't been tracking lately, and we've been sending out a lot more corrections than usual. And all of you have been really awesome about keeping up with everything and working with us on this. As a COC, we're maintaining our completeness score, which is great. And we have had an uptick in our timeliness score as well. Sorry, the picture is a little blurry, but we're doing really well in data quality, and everything is rather high to begin with. So this is really great. And we want to thank everyone for all their hard work. Next.
And I think
it's my turn. Thank you, Tori. Hi, everybody. I'm Tammy, and I just wanted to give you some Learn World reminders when users are signing up for the self-paced training. I'm getting a lot of requests on our questions about how to submit the final assignment. So I just wanted to quickly go over it with you. So it's very important to read the instructions under the hands-on learning activity. So if I'm going to share my screen because I think it's easier to show you. Is that okay? Okay, let's see, share. Can everybody see my screen? Okay. So hopefully there's not a lag happening. When users access the training, the self-paced training, and they complete the HMIS 101 Part 1 course, they'll be taken to the Part 2 course where it says basic data entry. In the first activity, it's called the hands-on learning. It gives you instructions on what you'll need to do before beginning the hands-on learning course of this section. So some things to remember, it says to access the sandbox site, please click here. So clicking here has a hyperlink. It will take you to our training site for Contra Costa HMIS training site. Also, you are going to need, oops, what happened? You're going to, okay, each agency has their agency name displayed at the bottom. And below that, we have created a username and password for you to use in our sandbox site. So please read this carefully. Make sure that you copy and paste the username and password into our training site so you can access the site to complete your hands-on activities. And at the end of the course, users will be required to submit their client unique ID number or their client name that they created in the sandbox site for me to review and to give them a passing score. So I just wanted to make that mention, and let me go back to the slides.
Sure. Okay, share. Can everybody see the slides? Great.
Okay, next slide, please. So again, this is just for everyone who wants to download the PowerPoint for today's presentation. There are some instructions in here for you to share with your teams or your staff on how to begin the hands-on training. Okay, next slide. And yeah, so these are just some screenshots for you to take with you in order to complete the assignment. Okay, next slide.
And it looks like we recommend having both screens up. So,
Oh, yeah.
right. Yeah. I think side by
Yes.
side is the easiest way to do it.
If you can have both screens side by side, it's easier for you or your staff member to complete the assignment. If you drag and pull the tab separate from the what do you call that thing? The browser, then you can separate them and you'll be able to see both screens at one time. Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy. All right,
Okay.
back to Tori.
So we're thrilled to announce that every agency in our COC has shown an improvement in 2 or more areas of data quality since our last meeting. So everybody, all agencies got thrown into the raffle. And we have a box.
And just as a reminder, this is done every quarter. We compare data from the recent submissions to the last submissions to see who has improved. And if your agency is one of those agencies, we'll throw your name into the hat and you will be entered into a raffle for a Starbucks or Amazon gift card. Winner's choice.
And this time around, it is Shelter Inc.
Yay.
Awesome.
Congrats. All right, thank you, everybody. And good work. Okay, anything else on the slides? Okay, it looks like we've come to the end. This section is for questions or comments or anything that was not mentioned. Even if wasn't mentioned in the agenda, we can talk about topics, leaving the floor open. All right, I'm not hearing or seeing any hands up, so we are good to adjourn. Thank you, everybody. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 17th, same time. It is an official committee meeting, so we will be in person as well as virtual. For anyone who would like to join us, we will be at 2120 Diamond Boulevard in Concord.
We have a question from Sharon.
Oh, yes.
When do the new forms with those new data elements go live? They go live effective today. You can download them right after this meeting, and the new forms will have all of the updates.
And I just want to, I'll make sure that they're up on the website. I think there might have been a delay in getting them up today. So we'll post an announcement when they're up officially. Great question.
This is Joe. I have a question.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about qualitative versus quantitative data. And I'm wondering if we are going to continue that, if that's an HMIS thing, or if that's going to be, if that discussion would be somewhere else. And I guess with that, my question really is, I've been calling it the humanitarian data, but I've been told recently that HMIS isn't the place to put it. So I'm wondering, once I start collecting it, because I'm not an HMIS, right? Like I'm not in there. So I'm wondering, like, where would that data end up? Because I want it to be part of the COC. I want it to be part of these discussions. But is it HMIS or is it something different? I guess that's really where my real question is.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, HMIS is not necessarily the place where qualitative data lives. We do have notes in there. We do have some kind of narrative types of data in HMIS, but it is more of a quantitative data type of system. I think what you're talking about, Joe, is really similar to what we do in the annual report and the PIT, where we kind of weave those things together and then use all of those pieces of data to help make reports and presentations and things like that. Because at HMIS, what we really want to do is connect things to that person level. It's a person kind of level database. And qualitative data is not usually kind of the types of things that we're storing in there, if that makes sense.
Right. So then where would it be stored?
Usually we're keeping things like the success stories we keep and whatnot in our files, in our sort of organizational storage, but it's not necessarily in its own system, if that makes sense. It's usually compiled and configured and analyzed to be within reports and presentations, but not necessarily a specific system for it.
So I guess when I do collect this data, like where I'm thinking, like my first thought was to just like give it to the red team and like, here, have fun with it. But then I don't really know like where it would go from there.
Yeah.
If because I think that it should be part of all of these discussions, but it's never really brought up because I guess the data is not there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think let's talk more about it as the data's coming through and as you're working on the project, and we can figure out where to go from there.
Sweet.
Thanks all.
All right. Thank you, everybody. See you in September.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.